Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be having a look at the Stanley Fatmax S300 stud finder. So let's have a real quick look at the packaging before we open her up. And you can see it can find studs up to 38mm behind the wall. Can also detect metal pipes, so that would include water pipes and so forth. It also has a little notch at the top to be able to mark your wall for putting in screws, but we'll have a look at that closer once we open the packaging. And also can find live wires. Now, to me this is a very important function because this is it is sold as a stud sensor, but to be able to find live wires in your house, to me, is very important and really gives this stud finder a dual purpose. Now, it doesn't come with a battery because it requires a 9-volt battery, so I've got my own one here. Let's open her up and get her working. Okay, so she's out of the packaging, and what do you get? You get the Fatmax itself, and you also get an instruction manual. As I mentioned before, you need to supply your own battery, which is a 9-volt battery. So let's do the install of that now. So first of all, let's have a look at what all the buttons do on the S300. The selection button on the front here lets you cycle through all the various detection modes available to you. When you push the button for the first time, it'll automatically default to finding beams of either wood or metal. It turns off pretty quick. Pushing it twice will switch it to the metal detection option, so you can find metal piping under the floor, the walls or the ceiling. Hitting the selection button 3 times will switch it to live AC mode and let you find any live electrical wires behind the wall. Now, not only is that a great mode to find live electrical wires, but I think it's an overlooked mode in the sense that if you wanted to make sure any power was off in the home to do any electrical work, and I will say that here in Australia you're not allowed to do any electrical work, you always need a licensed electrician. But in other countries, if you were to do your own electrical work and you wanted to ensure power was off to a certain area, you could use this to check that that was happening. Then we have the activation button on the right hand side, and you use this to turn and keep the unit on. Once you've got the activation button pushed, you cannot scroll through the select options. You need to actually go through the select options first. Just wait for it to turn off. So let's say you wanted to do AC and then hit the activation button. It'll calibrate, but it's not calibrating properly because it's not up against the wall, and now you're ready to use it. And last but not least, we have this marking channel at the top. And once you've found the center of your stud, you just get your carpenter's pencil or a marker or whatever you're using. It even has a ridge, so you can slide the pen in, and then you've got a little V here, and you just mark the V, and that'll mark the center of your stud to make it easier for drilling. I think this is a fantastic addition, and the little V just helps keep your pen in place. A very simple but effective little addition to this unit. So the most important thing when using your stud finder is to calibrate it first. And you need to calibrate it every time you hit the activate button. So the best way to calibrate the S300 is you need to do it against the wall, and where you place it against the wall, there can't be a stud. Now, the best way to find out whether there is or is not a stud is the knocking echo test. And I'll show you how to do that now. What you do is you just knock on the wall and you'll hear an echo. And as I move along, you'll hear that the echo disappears. And there we go, the echo returns. So this is the area in which we want to calibrate. And now what we do is we put the unit up against the wall like so, hit the activation button, wait for all those lines to disappear, and then it shows up as being ready. Now you may say, Andrew, if I can knock on the wall and find the stud, why on earth would I need a stud finder? And although that is true to a sense, you can knock and find the stud, but it'll be very difficult to make sure that you get the center of the stud. And that's where this comes in handy. If you're putting up a shelf and you're going to be putting a lot of weight on that shelf, you want to make sure that the screws are right in the center of the stud for maximum weight holding capabilities. So we'll put the S300 through some real world tests, and first of all we're going to search for a beam. So we're up against the hollow part of the wall which I mentioned before, and now we can calibrate by clicking on the activation button. So let's do that now. So you can see it's showing as being ready, and now we can move the unit over. And now it's found a beam, but it shows us that we need to move to the right to find the center, a bit to the left, and there. Now there are some complaints in regards to this being so sensitive, and I will admit that this is true. You can see I'm literally moving 1 millimeter, and it's still struggling to find center, but there we go, we finally found it. Oh, and there we go, we've found center. It is a bit finicky, but it does do the job. So what we'll do now is we'll check the metal detecting capabilities of the S300, and to do that we hit the select button twice, and now it's showing up as metal. We hit the activation button, and it's calibrated. Now I have a light up to my right hand side, sorry about the glare coming from the window, and if we go up to the light you can see that it's detecting metal. If we go away it goes back to normal. Go back to the light, you can see the light's made of metal, and we go away. Now I wanted to test this actually for something that it's not really rated to do, and that is, will it find jewellery? So let's give that a quick test now. So what we're going to test now is whether this can actually find jewellery. And I've got the S300 here on a table, I've got my wedding ring here, and the reason I want to test this is because if you lost a wedding ring or a necklace or something in the backyard, in the long grass or in the dirt, or you were down at the beach in the sand, now I know you're not going to carry one of these in the car, but if it was very important to you and you did own an S300 or something similar, you could race home, grab it, and come back and use this to help you find your lost jewellery. So we're just going to give it a test now. So let's hit the button twice to set it to metal mode, metal detecting mode. Hit the activation button. Let it calibrate. It's showing up as being ready. And if we go over the wedding ring, and there we go, it does detect. Now there's just one more thing to test, and that is finding live AC power. So to do that, we'll hit the select button 3 times. We're on AC power, hit the activation button. It'll calibrate. And we have our light up to the right here, so let's drag it to the light and see what happens. Now you can see, oh, there we go, we've got an alarm, and that's showing us that we're near AC power. Now this being an old house, the AC wires go to the roof, so that's why we're getting an alarm up here. And if we drag it down, it turns off. Go back up again. Now I will show on the screen now the range of being able to detect live wires. And it's not 100% accurate. To do that, you're going to need to buy something a little more expensive. This is more of a stud finder, and it just lets you know when you're in the general area of a live AC wire. But to me, this is still more than good enough. And so that's working perfectly. Now, I mentioned earlier on that I think it's very important that this can detect live AC wires, and I'll show you a demonstration of that now. So we're at the main power switch, and what I'm going to do is turn the power off, and we'll see whether the S300 will actually detect that there is no power. So we're back inside, and I've confirmed that the power is off to the lights. So what we'll do is we'll hit the select button 3 times to be on AC live power mode. Hit the activation button, let it calibrate. And if we move up to the light now, you can see it's finding a beam, but it's not finding any live electrical wires. So that's working perfectly. So to be able to use this to confirm that the power is in fact turned off could save your life. So very, very important. That brings us to the end of all our tests. If you found this helpful, please consider giving it a like. And if you'd like to see more tool overviews and tests, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.